All right, welcome to the Spirit and Muscle broadcast. I'm Young Gerald, certified personal trainer, and this episode is about the glycemic index. What is it, and is it relevant to weight loss or bodybuilding or overall health? Is it relevant to you or me today? Let's discuss, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the Spirit and Muscle broadcast. Again, I'm Young Gerald, certified personal trainer. Thank you for hanging out a little bit with me. I'm honored that you'd spend some of your valuable time here, and I promise not to waste it, but give you some useful, valuable information. So let's dive right in. The glycemic index is a concept developed in the University of Toronto in 1981. The purpose of the glycemic index is to measure how fast carbohydrates we eat raise blood sugar levels. The glycemic index ranges from 1 to 100, 1 being the slowest and 100 being the fastest based upon pure glucose, which was the control that every other food was compared to. Foods that are 55 or under on the glycemic index are considered low. This includes most fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. Foods that fall between 56 and 69 are considered medium on the glycemic index and includes foods like brown rice, popcorn, and sweet potatoes. Foods that are high on the glycemic index are 70 or over and include most processed carbs like white rice and white bread. Unfortunately, even some otherwise healthy foods fall into the high glycemic index rating, such as potatoes, boiled potatoes, and rice milk. What is the relevance of the glycemic index for healthy people? Is it relevant at all? The answer, in my opinion, is yes. Even if you're not diabetic or pre-diabetic, you still want to pay attention to the glycemic index. Why? Because when you eat high glycemic index foods, they are digested very quickly, causing your blood sugar to spike, then your insulin spikes to bring your blood sugar down, then you crash and end up craving more high glycemic index foods. It's a vicious cycle. And if you continue to eat like this all the time, it can lead to type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance, among other things. On the other hand, eating lower glycemic index foods helps avoid the spikes and crashes of blood sugar and insulin. This helps maintain steady blood sugar levels throughout the day, keeps our energy up, and helps control our hunger. Does the glycemic index affect weight loss? Yes. For one thing, the insulin spike associated with high glycemic index food stimulates fat storage, which is obviously not our goal if we're trying to lose weight. Also, studies have shown that after the insulin surge produced by eating high glycemic index foods, people tend to eat 60 to 70% more calories at their next meal. On the other hand, low glycemic index foods don't stimulate the food craving hormones that can trigger eating binges. Now, what about the glycemic index in muscle building? If you're not overweight and your goal is to build muscle, there are a couple ways to strategically use higher glycemic index foods to actually help you reach your goals. For the most part, we all want to avoid the insulin spikes throughout the day, but there are a couple exceptions. Number one, immediately post-workout, and number two, right when you wake up in the morning. We've focused on insulin as a fat storage hormone, but a more complete understanding is that insulin is responsible for driving nutrients into the tissues at the cellular level, whether it be fat or muscle tissue. So consuming a meal high in protein and high glycemic index carbs will purposely surge your insulin. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, immediately post-workout, your muscles are depleted of glycogen. So a surge of insulin will drive glucose and protein into the muscle cells, increasing protein synthesis, i.e. muscle building. An added benefit is insulin production blunts cortisol production. Cortisol is the hormone responsible for muscle breakdown, among other things. So the surge of insulin actually inhibits muscle breakdown and increases muscle building. A win-win if that's your goal. The same principle holds true when you first wake up in the morning. You just basically fasted for 8 hours, so your body is depleted. So a surge of insulin will decrease muscle breakdown and increase protein synthesis and drive nutrients into your muscles. So if you're not overweight and your goal is to build muscle, you can strategically use higher glycemic index foods to your advantage. The glycemic index and disease prevention. By following the glycemic index, you can virtually eliminate your risk of contracting type 2 diabetes. Following glycemic index recommendations protects your insulin response from being overtaxed, which in turn keeps your heart and your brain and other organs healthier. It was found in research that people who continued diets high on the glycemic index were twice as likely to have a heart attack or develop heart disease within the next decade compared to those who followed a lower glycemic index diet. And low glycemic index foods are higher in fiber and lower in fat, which are exactly the right foods to lower cholesterol. So another word for eating according to the glycemic index for me is just simply healthy eating. The glycemic index and everyday life. As a general rule, foods high in sugar and white flour are higher on the glycemic index, along with just about all processed foods. Fruits and vegetables and whole grains are usually low to medium on the glycemic index. The only drawback with the glycemic index is it was determined testing individual foods by themselves. For example, cooked white rice has a glycemic index of 73, which is high. But who eats cooked rice by itself? The second you add protein or fat, it slows its digestion and lowers the glycemic index. Another crazy example is a Snickers bar. You'd think that would be high on the glycemic index, but it's only 40. That's pretty low. The reason is because of all the fat, which slows the digestion of the nearly 30 grams of sugar. So, by the way, that's another thing to consider. A low glycemic index product does not automatically make it healthy, especially in the case of processed junk foods and candy. So again, as a general rule, avoid foods high in sugar and white flour and processed foods. Instead, focus on fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And it's always a good idea to eat some protein with every meal or snack, and you should be fine. If you're not overweight and your goal is to build muscle, you can strategically, and might I add sparingly, utilize higher glycemic index carbs with protein post-workout and first thing in the morning. Now, if you're thinking, boy, it sure would be nice if I had a chart or a list of the glycemic index showing all the common foods we eat, well, you're in luck. As I was researching to make this video, I too realized how convenient that would be, so I made one. Introducing the Spirit and Muscle Glycemic Index Food Guide. And best of all, it's free. It's a 3-page PDF download that has over 100 of the most common foods and where they fall on the glycemic index. To pick up a copy, go to spiritandmuscle.com/GI. Stands for glycemic index. So that's spiritandmuscle.com/GI. And the link is also in the description. Okay, that's it for this week's Spirit and Muscle broadcast. Thank you for joining me. If you're getting value out of these videos, please like and share them. Subscribe for more helpful content like this. Like my Facebook page, follow me on Instagram, and don't forget to pick up your copy of the Glycemic Index Food Guide. All the links are in the description. That's all for now. God bless you, and I'm out.